I wanted to make this video just as a little bit of a instructional or informative video that shows how to install one of these motion sensor light switches. This one is Legrand or Legrand, however it's pronounced. This particular model can be used for either one pole, just a standard light switch that's the only light switch for the light, or it can be used for a three-way where there's two different light switches that control the same light. You know, if you have one on opposite side of the room from the other. This particular switch is just a switch that controls the light in my laundry room. This particular light is one of the most common ones in the house that gets left on all the time. And so I've decided to just install this sensor switch so that whenever nobody's in here, it cuts off automatically by itself. And just want to start out by saying that I am not an electrician. I have virtually zero experience working with electrical in residential or commercial. Literally only DIY, simple, basic home electrical stuff that I've done. So I fully recommend that you get an electrician. I'm just showing how I did this. So I have, I take no responsibility for anything anybody does. Make sure that you always contact professionals or use professional equipment. So again, I take no responsibility for anything that anybody does here after watching this video. Everything you do is at your own risk, and I am not a professional in any way, shape, or form. So I've cut off my breaker outside to this room, and my light switch, can verify that, but I think you should probably always use an electrical tester to double check that. And I am going to now remove the cover off of the switch so that we can see the different wires that are connected to the light switch and determine what to do from there. This shows that I do have the breaker turned off for that switch. Always make sure the breaker is turned off for whatever you're working on. Wanted to go ahead and take a second and show the tools that I'm going to be using. I have already gone ahead and used my small flathead screwdriver to remove the faceplate here from the wall switch, and then I'm going to be using my Phillips screwdriver to take those main screws out. I do have a headlamp, which comes in really handy for a lot of things, but mainly in this situation, obviously, because I have the power turned off to this room. I do have a window in this room that's going to help me out quite a bit too, but in a closet that I installed, I did not have a window, and so this light was pretty essential to add a little bit to where you can see a little bit better. I have some electrical tape that I'll show what we'll use that for, and then I may or may not use some pliers to be able to strip wires. I went ahead and took these, the new switch out of the box. It does come, this particular one does come with different color face plates to be able to match. Mine in particular is kind of an off-white. I don't know if it's considered either off-white or almond, but they do have one that's a little darker, and then the one that it comes with is just a plain white. And it also comes with these three little orange wire nuts. And I wanted to show the wiring on the back. The reason I said we may or may not need the pliers is because they come already pre-stripped, and so all I have to do is pull off the little sheets off the end there, and it's already ready to go. So I don't think I'm going to need to do any wire stripping, but I may need the pliers to bend around some wires. So I'll go ahead and pull out this and take a look, and we'll talk about that. Okay, so I've gone ahead and undone the screws here, and I'm going to pull this out. Again, I have made sure that my switch is off at the breaker. I have no power coming to this switch. I fully recommend that you use an electrical tester. And again, I'm not a professional electrician. This is not a instructional video by a professional. This is simply me making this because there weren't a lot of other videos exactly how to do this type of switch. So the main thing that we want to look at here once we pull these out is, from what I've learned by watching other videos, is that usually, not all the time, but usually on just a plain switch, whether it's one like this or it's one of the ones that you toggle up and down, you're going to have the wire that comes in from the bottom is going to be the wire that is supplying the power coming in. So the wire that comes into the bottom of the switch, usually, again, this may not be, somebody can comment and tell me if that's wrong, generally speaking, but from my knowledge, generally the wire that comes in the bottom is going to be the one that supplies the power. And then the wire that comes out at the top is going to be the one that goes back to the light or the fan or whatever device that is powering. So the power comes in the bottom wire. Then when you flip the switch, it makes the circuit, and the power goes out through the top wire and goes out through the into the device that is powering, whether that, again, like it's a light or a fan, whatever the case may be. I think that's generally the case on most of just plain on-off switches, not a dimmer switch or anything like that. I don't know how those work because I'm not a professional, but the power comes in here and the power goes out here to the device. So based on the terminology that is being used in the instructions for the one pole configuration, it is referring to the line as the power coming in. So you see where it says line black. So the black wire that is on the back of here is going to go to the bottom wire, that where the power is coming in. And the term load is going to go for the red wire. And then also, if you notice here, one thing that I'll note is for this one pole configuration, the yellow wire is not going to be used. And so I will put one of the orange wire nuts on there and cap it off. It's not going to be used. The ground, I guess I should probably explain that. The ground, you're going to make sure that the ground connection, which is on the other side of this switch, which is the bare copper wire, has to be then taken from the old switch and make sure that it's connected to the green screw on this switch. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the black to the bottom wire, which is the power coming in, and I'm going to connect the red wire to the top wire, which is the power going out and supplying power to the light. And I'm going to connect those. I'm going to cap off the yellow one, and then I'll show you guys what it looks like. I have taken the wires off of the old switch, and I have gotten the new switch ready to go on. As you can see, I left the ground wire with a little hook shape on the end because that's going to make it much easier to fit in there and hook around the green screw and then tighten it down. So I'm going to hook it around the green screw, maybe crimp it together just a little bit more, and then tighten it down real securely. Switch. Connected the black wire here to the one that was on the bottom of the old switch, and then I've connected the red wire for the new switch. I've connected it to the wire that was hooked into the top of the old switch, and I've hooked the ground wire up to the ground screw for the new switch. So pretty straightforward and simple there. Made sure twist it around and secured the wire nut really well. And I'm actually also gonna, just for a little extra security, put a little bit of electrical tape on each one of those just to make sure. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to kind of fold them up and push them back into the box so that I can make sure I've got plenty of room for the housing to be pushed back in there. And so next I'll show just securing it on the wall. This is just to show I have had to really fold up everything really tightly into the box. because of the size of this housing. So there's not a lot of room in there. So we just have to make sure I fold everything up really well. Okay, I've got everything bunched up, folded up and put in there, and I'm gonna start to tighten these screws back down. The one thing we have to make sure of is that we don't strip out, because these screws are going into plastic, the plastic box that holds all the wires. So we have to just really make sure we're careful not to strip those out, because if you do strip those out, I'm not real sure what your options would be for securing this real well. So I'm gonna make sure that I put lots of pressure on the metal part of the frame of the switch as I'm tightening down, so that I don't strain the threads and risk stripping out those holes there in the box. So I've gotten it tightened up. Again, like I said, I made sure I put plenty of pressure right here on the metal part of the frame as I was tightening these screws, so as not to strip out the threads of the plastic box that this mounts to. And so it does take quite a bit of pressure, because like I said, there's not much room back in there. But now I wanted to show, because I said that I wanted to make sure it matched the color of my original faceplate, I am gonna switch out this. And so it's a two-part process, because there are two pieces. There's an outer frame, and then there's the middle part that hides the sensor. And so I'm going to pop this off. The reason I didn't do it beforehand, because just in case I broke this during installation, that I would still have the one that's the actual color that I want to use. So you squeeze right there, and you pop that outside piece off, and then you squeeze right here, and you pop that off. It has a little LED indicator light right here at the top that's a little stem, so you have to be careful not to break that off. And then this sensor is obviously right there, so I would imagine you probably want to avoid touching that. So then to put it back in, I'm going to carefully snap that back in there. Like I said, be careful with that little LED indicator stem. I mean, it's nothing more than a light, but I still think it probably wouldn't be good to break it. And then this, especially because it does have a little hole where this LED stem goes into. So you got to go in there sort of at a straight angle, and then snap that. And then it's just ready for me to now put the faceplate back on. Okay, now I've got the faceplate back on. One thing I wanted to make a comment on that I learned pretty quick is to make sure that when you're doing the screws on your faceplate, to try to make sure that you're kind of gentle and slow, because you can scratch up the screws on your faceplate. And if you're trying to make it look like a really nice clean job, and you want your wife to be happy with you that you did a nice clean job, then try to take it easy, because if you kind of ram in there and scuff up and scratch up and rough up these screws, you can scratch the paint off of them, and then they just won't look as clean and pretty. It does have a little plastic film over the top, I guess, to protect the sensor, so I go ahead and pull that off. And now I'm going to go out to the breaker and turn my power on, and we'll check it out. The breaker back on, but I did read something that says it takes about a minute for the unit to actually receive the power and load up. I think it actually referred to it as a initial power up delay, about 1 minute calibration period. Says it occurs when it's power failure or anything like that. So when you saw the LED flash, that's what that was. Is it was finally getting the power, because it had only been about 45 seconds since I came in from the breaker. So LED showing there again. I don't really know. Yep, there it went ahead and went on by itself. So now I'm going to step back away. Watch the light. I think it's default to 30 seconds. All right, there it went off. I think that was about 30 seconds. So now I'm gonna step back just in the laundry room. Cuts right back on. I barely even entered the doorway, just to right here. So again, that was the install for this particular sensor. There's the exact model number there. Sorry for the maybe a poor quality video. It's really my first time doing one of these, but I didn't really see a specific instructional video out there that talked about installing this motion sensor on a one-way, so I just thought I'd do one. Leave me any comments, especially if you're a professional electrician or have a lot of experience with things like this. If there's anything I did wrong or anything you think that others watching need to hear, make sure and leave a comment below so that everybody can learn. All right, thanks.